Hey, thanks so much for finding the video. Do us a favor. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe. And be sure to leave your comment. We love to interact. Enjoy the video. Now, the Saints do have a lot of work to do this offseason. Of course, they're losing Dan Campbell to Detroit to be the head coach. He's taken Aaron Glenn with him to be his defensive coordinator. Terry Fontenot today was introduced as new general manager of the Atlanta Falcons. They held on to Ryan Nielsen by the hardest. And we know there is going to be a lot of turnover on this roster for the New Orleans Saints in 2021. One guy who absolutely will be back is Michael Thomas. Now, I'm curious if anybody maybe wants to retract their scorching hot takes about Michael Thomas this year. Wow. If you have not heard the report or seen the report from Adam Schefter, Schefter earlier today tweeted that Michael Thomas is likely to have surgeries on both the torn deltoid and other injured ligaments in his high ankle this offseason. Schefter reported that he, Thomas, knew it was likely Drew Brees' last year and didn't want to miss out on trying to win a Super Bowl with him. Schefter also, in addition, reported that Thomas often would not practice all week, but then would still play in the games at much less than 100% with pain medication. Coaches told him, even as injured as he was, they were much better off with him than without him, but now he'll need surgery. This is a guy that signed a $100 million contract a year ago, a guy that a year ago was the NFL's Offensive Player of the Year, got injured in week 1. Now we know he needs multiple surgeries on his ankle and still fought through it. He missed 9 games, even went on IR the last 3 weeks to be as healthy as he possibly could for a playoff run. And now we know why. So, look, man, it was obviously not a great year for Michael Thomas. Battled the injuries. He had the altercation with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson in the locker room, which caused him to be suspended for a week. And all of that's really disappointing. I can understand the frustration associated with it. But the New Orleans Saints are better off with Michael Thomas than without. And one other thing that I'll remind you of is that Michael Thomas next year has a cap number of $18.8 million. He's got a dead cap number of $23 million. So, essentially, for those that don't know how that works, if Michael Thomas is on the roster, he counts $18.8 million against the cap. If he's not on the roster, he counts $23 million. So it would cost you $5 million, $4.2 million more against the cap to not have arguably the best receiver in the NFL. So anyone suggesting that the Saints are going to cut or trade Michael Thomas, that is stupid. There is a 0% probability of that happening. And I don't like to speak in absolutes. That is as close to an absolute as you could possibly get in this business. There is, though, going to be a lot of turnover. That's inevitable. There was a report. So typically in December, the NFL will give its teams an idea of what the expected salary cap is going to be. And typically year to year, you see the cap rise by about 5 to 10%, right? That's just natural inflation. You see revenues rise, so the cap rises. Typically 5 to 10% a year. What they're projecting right now is in the neighborhood of $175 or $180 million. That would be about a $23 million drop in the cap from year to year. Normally you see it go up 5 to 10%. Now you'd be looking at about a 15% drop. So you're the Saints. You're $100 million over the projected salary cap. Your roster is going to look different next year. And there's a lot of ways where you can just look at some very natural positions and say, yep, that guy can't be back and certainly can't be back at that number. I mean, I could do some rough math here. For example, Drew Brees' cap hit next year is $36 million. His dead cap hit is 22.6. So you save so basically, Drew Brees is going to cost you a lot of money, whether he's on the roster or not. But if he's not on the roster, you save $14 million. So it is a giant benefit financially for Drew Brees to not be on the roster next year. There's some other ones. When you look at contracts like Quan Alexander, the cap hit next year will be $13.4 million. It's a non-guaranteed year. So you can cut Quan Alexander and sign him to a new deal that clearly isn't going to be $13.4 million. So right there in those two players alone, that's $27 million that you'll save against the cap. I'm not saying Quan won't be back. He's just not going to be back at that number. Emmanuel Sanders has a cap number of $10.5 million. His dead cap number is $4 million. So if Emmanuel Sanders isn't back, that saves you an additional $6.5 million. That's a very likely scenario that Sanders isn't back next year. Teron Armstead, another big contract. But he's your starting left tackle. He's got a $16 million cap number next year, but his dead cap hit is $9.6 million. So you'd stand to save $7 million against the cap if Armstead wasn't back next year. Now, if he's not, who plays left tackle? That's a giant question mark. Obviously, with the new quarterback, you want your line intact, but is this the point in Armstead's career where you say, it's been awesome, man, and when you're right, you're at an elite level, but he's battled a lot of injuries, he's getting up in age. Is this where the Saints cut bait with Teron Armstead? I don't know, but those are the kind of conversations that they're going to have. Janoris Jenkins is likely done with the Saints. He's got a cap number of $14 million. The dead cap number is $7 million. So if Janoris Jenkins is not on the roster next year, that saves you $7 million against the cap. I mean, this is likely what they're going to be dealing with. Nick Easton, if he's not on the roster, would save you $6 million next year. His concussion issues, it's likely he's not back. I mean, all those numbers that I just mentioned to you right there, Brees at $14 million, Armstead at $7 million, Jenkins at $7 million, Quan at $13 million, Sanders at $6.5 million, Easton at $6 million. I mean, you're talking about you're halfway there already with those. And then you can restructure contracts, of course, however you need to. And listen, I'm not trying to do the job for Kai Hartley and Mickey Loomis. I mean, they're fantastic at it, and they found a way to make the cap work year after year after year, and they will do it again without my help. But it's just abundantly clear that there are going to have to be roster decisions here that are made where players who are still good players, who can still play at a high level, aren't going to be back or just going to have to be back at a much lesser number. And maybe the bigger casualty is going to be not being able to sign your free agents. Trey Hendrickson is one of those guys who, if a team comes in and wants to pay him $20 million a year, the Saints can't match that this year. So he'd leave. Marcus Williams is going to be a desirable free agent as well. Not sure if the Saints can match it. People keep mentioning Malcolm Jenkins, but when you look at Malcolm Jenkins, his dead cap number is almost $13 million. His roster number is 8.4. So it would cost you $5 million more if Jenkins isn't on the team. So you want Malcolm Jenkins back next year, as odd as that may sound for an aging player, but Jenkins would be more affordable than Marcus Williams. Sheldon Rankins is another one of these guys, and Rankins was on a conference call yesterday with the media, and they asked Rankins, this is 3, Brandon, if you could, about being a free agent, about his time in New Orleans.
Crazy to think, one, that I've been here 5 years, and 2, that I am a free agent, coming into offseason. I haven't really thought too much about it. I just kind of been focused on this team and trying to make this run at everything. And this city's been amazing to me. From the day I got here, they took me in, they embraced me. You guys know I don't say too much. I kind of, just go about my businesses, and I work my ass off and let the results handle themselves. And the city has embraced that and loved me for it, embraced my celebration and different things like that. So, I mean, it's, my struggles, they've been with me every step of the way. So I'll forever be indebted to this city, and it's a place where I've done nothing but grown as a man and as a football player.
Certainly sounds like a farewell. I mean, I'd love to see Sheldon Rankins back. But how do you make that math work for a guy that's had significant knee and Achilles injuries already in his career? These are the kind of decisions that the Saints front office are going to have to make this year. It's why Monday I was so emotional after the loss, because so many people were, because you realize it's not just about Drew Brees. It's about this whole era. Whatever the Saints look like next year. And Sean Payton, of course, we expect to be back and is an amazing coach and is still going to put a winning product on the field. It's just going to look and feel so different. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.